Hello class, today we're going to work on topic 3, perimeter and area of triangles. So going to what we have here, we're going to find the perimeter of this triangle, and the perimeter is just the sum of the three sides of this triangle. So I have to figure out all three sides. I have to figure out the length of AB, which will be easy, but BC and CA will take a little bit more work. Okay, I labeled my triangle. I have side AB, side BC, side CA, and label the ordered pairs. I'm going to use my distance formula. The distance formula is the square root of the change in x quantity squared plus the change in y quantity squared. I have to use the negative numbers when I do the difference of things, but my delta x is just a positive number, the distance between the x's, the difference between the y's. The first one's the easiest one. AB is really easy because AB is a horizontal distance. I don't have to do the distance formula. I can just count squares, or from -8 to 9 on the x is 17 squares. Now when I want to do side BC, well, BC, my delta x here is equal to 6, and my delta y here is equal to 10. The change in x or change in y is just positive numbers, so I get the square root of 6 squared plus 10 squared. And I added it all up together, I get the square root of 136. Or I get BC is equal to about 11.66. I'm going to do the same thing with CA. It's going to equal the square root of, well, this delta x here, I counted my squares, and I get 11. And this delta y here, I counted my squares, I got 10. So I got 11 squared plus 10 squared is the square root of 221. So my CA is about 14.87. So my total perimeter is the 17AB plus the 11.66 BC plus the 14.87 CA. My total perimeter, I get to be about 43.53. That is the three sides of that triangle. Area of a rectangle that you should know is area equals length times width, or I'm going to use base times height. Here's my base on the bottom here, and here's my height on the side here. And this base by counting squares is 14. This height by counting squares is 7. So my area for this rectangle is 14 times 7, or my area is equal to 98 square units. Okay. So then it says, what is the area of the rectangle of the same base and height? Well, area of the triangle, well, if I did this, just cut across, this is a triangle with the same base and height. Okay, and I think that you could see that this area is equal to half of the rectangle. So this area of this triangle is equal to 49, because the area formula for a triangle is 1/2 times base times height. So what is the relationship between the base and the height? They must be perpendicular. Okay? They must be perpendicular to each other. It's the only way I can figure out the height of an object is making it perpendicular to the base or vice versa. So the triangle from the first page was a little bit easier because the base of the one side was horizontal. How about if we have an oblique triangle? That means it's slanted or on an angle. So let's look at the triangle ACD. So this triangle here. A, C, D. Best I can do with my stylus. Triangle A, C, D. Okay? It says let's consider the base of the triangle AD. So this side here is the base AD. What point will the height go through? Well, the point the height should go through would be point C, the vertex on the other side. So I have to go through this point. And so I'm going to draw something perpendicular here. So the relationship between the height and the base is perpendicular, which means their slopes are opposite and reciprocal, which means I need the slope of the base. So I'm going to take this base right here, AD. I have to figure out this slope of this line, AD. I'm going to do, again, my slope is change in y over change in x, or y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. It's never going to change. And I'm going to do 13 minus 3 over 6 minus 1. My slope is 10 over 5, or my slope is equal to 2. That's important to me. That means if my slope is 2, my perpendicular slope has to be negative 1/2. And that will be the slope of the height. So right here at this point C, I'm going to go down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1 over 2, down 1. I'm going to do that until I get to the base. So right here, this side here is my height. And notice it's perpendicular and it goes through this point here. It's nice to know that this point here is 3, 7, because maybe I'll need that later. So when I find area of the triangle, I need my formula for area is 1/2 times base times height. So I need the height, I need the base, and I can multiply them together and take half of that. So the height is this distance here, right here. So I'm going to use my change in x over change in y, or I mean the change in x squared plus the change in y squared formula, distance formula. My change in x is 8 squared plus my change in y is 4 squared. I take the square root of all that. I get the square root of 80 is my height. My base is this side here. Again, I use my distance formula, change in x squared plus change in y squared, and I get my base is equal to change in x is 5 squared. My change in height is 10 squared. And I get the square root of 125. And I could do my formula. A equals 1/2 times square root of 80 times the square root of 125. I get 1/2 the square root of 10,000, which is 1/2 of 100. So my area is equal to 50 square units. That is the area of this red triangle. There we go. So consider the base of the triangle to be AC. So here's AC right here. This is going to be triangle ACD. Here's my base, AC. So here's my whole triangle, all outlined in red. And it says, what point will the height go through? Well, it has to go through point D, which is the vertex across from that side AC. So I had to figure out maybe what's going on here. So I better figure out this, my slope of this AC, which is change in y over change in x. And the change in y is 11 minus 3, or change in x is negative 8 minus 1. I get 8 over negative 6. So my slope of line AC is negative 4/3. So when I need a perpendicular slope to that, it's 3 over 4. So I'm going to come here, instead of going up 3 and over 4, I'm going to go down 3. 1, 2, 3, and over 1, 2, 3, 4. And then 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I get my nice little perpendicular, because that's the idea of the height. This is my height. This point here is negative 2, 7. I'm going to have to use that at some point. And now I have my base, I have my height, I have some points, and I can figure out everything I need to do. So I'm going to figure out my height, and here are my ordered pairs. So my change in x is 8 squared, plus my change in y is 6 squared, square root of. I get my height is equal to 10. And I'm going to do my base. My change in, here's my base AC, my change in x is 6, my change in y is 8. I get that, and that is also equal to 10. And I do area is 1/2 times 10 times 10, and I get my area is equal to 50, which is exactly the same size as the first triangle I had. Okay, for the next page, we need to find the perimeter of this triangle ABC. So I have the three sides I have to add together. AB is equal to the square root. Well, the difference in the x's for AB is 12 squared, plus the difference in the y's is 8 squared. I get 208, which is about 14.42. For BC, I get, it's 2 squared for the x's, plus for the y's, it's 10 squared. I get the square root of 104, which is about 10.2. And for CA, I get 10 squared for the x's plus 2 squared for the y's. I get the square root of 104, which is again about 10.2. So my perimeter, adding up all these sides, is going to be 14.42 plus 10.2 plus 10.2. I get a grand total of 34.82. Is the perimeter. So how do I know that? Let's see, AC equals 10.20, BC equals 10.20, and AC equals 14.42. So I want to know, how do I know that AC or DC is the height? Well, that means this would have to be the base. So I have to figure out the slope of AB. Well, figuring out slope, I get -6 minus 2 over 7 minus -5. I get -8 over 12. I get this slope is equal to -2/3. And then when I do the slope of DC, well, here's my point DC, and I get 4 minus a -2 over a 5 minus 1. I get 6 over 4. I get that slope is 3 over 2. And I notice that these slopes are opposite and reciprocal. So AB is perpendicular to DC. So DC is the height. Okay, now I have to find area of the triangle, and area is just 1/2 times base times height. Well, the base AC, already figured out, is 14.42. Or better yet, the square root of 208. So now I have to figure out the height DC. Well, let's see. The change in x is 4 squared, plus the change in y is 6 squared. I get square root of 52, and that's the height. So my area is 1/2 square root of 208 times the square root of 52, which is 1/2 the square root of 10,816. I get, well, my area is equal to 52 square units. Okay, so now we need the equation of this segment segment CD. Well, first I need the slope of CD, and CD is going to be the change in x is going to be -10 minus a -2 over a -3 minus a -15. I get -8 over 12 or -2/3, and CD is definitely going downhill. And I'm going to use point C, and I get y equals -2/3 x plus 15 minus 2. I could use the other point if I wanted to. So is the equation of the height going through CD? So I have to go through point E. So to be a height equation, I have to go through point E, which is 4, 7. I need the perpendicular slope, which is 3 over 2. So y equals 3 over 2 x minus 4 plus 7. Now I have to figure out what is the area. Well, I'm going to have to draw this height. So the point of this intersection of the height to the base is -6/8. So now I have to figure out the height is equal to, let's see, the square root of the x's is 10 squared plus the y's is 15 squared. I get 225, or plus I get 325. 100 plus 225 is 325. Now for the base is going to be, well, the change in x's is 12 squared plus the change in y's is 8 squared. I get 208. is the length of that base. So now I get area equals 1/2 base times height, and it's going to be 1/2 times the square root of 208 times the square root of 325, which is 1/2 the square root of 67600, which is just 260. So my area is 130 square units. Okay, thank you for watching this video.